We're all chasing balance.
Of course.
We'll probably never catch it, but every day we try. And the whole point of writing the poems that I write was to unmask, to get out of that place of perfectionism that I was living in. Only got one choice now that I've unravelled, as I call it, and that is to be exactly who I am.
It's one thing to write poetry, it's another to share it.
You've got to go through the cringe. There's no way around it.
No.
You have to cross the cringe. And the first few times are going to feel absolutely hideously awful. Something inside you tells you that what's on the other side of the cringe is really worth crossing over.
Donna!
Fearne!
This is exciting.
So exciting.
It's really exciting, although we just had an off-mic chat that I'm bringing
Yeah.
to the mic.
Yeah.
A meeting of minds where you've just come out of recording your audiobook, which is an intense experience.
It is.
And how are you
Yeah.
feeling post being in that booth, locked in a cupboard for so long?
A little bit mad.
Yeah.
There's something about hearing your own voice in your own ears and not being able to get up and walk around and sort of being faced with your own writing and doing it straight for sort of 4 hours that sends you a bit loopy.
It's not normal, is it?
It's not normal.
And it is when you start to question everything you've written although it's too late because it's about to be published.
And if you do a word wrong, you have to go back and correct it because it doesn't match the text. So you have to stick to the script.
It does send
And
you...
you can't just change it at the last minute, which is tough.
Yeah, it's a very intense experience.
It is.
So to meet you in the middle... Yeah, just shake it off, Donna. Shake it off. Just to meet you in the middle, I'm delirious because I've had a kid off school every day this week from Monday, and it's now Friday that we're recording this.
Yeah.
Had my son off for 2 days, then my daughter off for 2 days, and then my son again today. And I've gone completely delirious. I don't know what is going on, what time of day it is, where I am. I am just happy to sit here and chat to you today. As you might have noticed with my little notepad here, which many Happy Place viewers and listeners will be aware of, I'm fastidious about my research and my note-taking. Today, I feel wildly out of control.
So I can make it up then?
Yeah, we both can. It's going to be a chat where we wing it.
I could just tell you anything.
You quite literally could. But I'm so glad we're getting to do this because we've worked with each other in other guises. You've performed at the Happy Place Festival for a couple of years with great applause and recognition. I mean, you've had huge crowds gathered around to watch you recite your poetry, and you can see people really holding on to each word, and people are really, I guess, in that moment expressing how meaningful your words are to them. It must be, I mean, it's nerve-wracking to read your poetry aloud, but it's a lovely experience to have a live audience, I'm imagining.
It is. And funnily enough, the Happy Place was the first time last summer that I had stood by myself in any capacity with a microphone and read out my poetry. So the Chiswick Happy Place on the Saturday was the first time, and it was probably the best place I ever could have done it because the crowds at Happy Place,
They're lovely.
they're just beautiful.
I know.
Everybody's there looking for connection, for better well-being. They're all seeking the light and joy and trying to, make friends with one another. So it was beautiful, nerve-wracking, but I really, really enjoyed it. And the way you had it all set up with the dream catchers and the sort of breeze, it was quite magical. So
I watched you perform and it was so gorgeous, but it is nerve-wracking. I guess I'm pretty well versed in speaking in front of people, and it's something that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always been like that. Of course, when I first started out, it's incredibly scary. And still now, if I'm faced with a really big crowd, of course you feel nervous. And people come up to me all the time and say, how do you stop those nerves?
Yes.
What do you do when they really kick in? I was doing an event on Wednesday and someone came up to me. We were doing this sort of double-handed event. And she was like, God, how do you stop the nerves? And I don't think you do. I think you just learn to live alongside them and cope better with them. Do you have any techniques that you employ before you go out on a stage now?
I mean, I had hypnotherapy.
Did you?
That's how nervous it was making me, because I started writing poetry in my mid-40s to share it on social media. I didn't sort of set out to do it. It all happened very organically. So when it came to pass that people wanted me to actually say it, I had to sort of pull myself out of this sort of midlife place where I'd gone, I can't do anything new. I can't go and stand on a stage. So, and then I used to perform when I was younger. I was a singer. So somewhere in there, it's there. And I knew I could access it if I would get past my fear and all of the imposter syndrome and all of these things that we bury ourselves with. So I thought, right, hypnotherapy, I believe in hypnotherapy because it gets past your thinking and into your subconscious. And then I took an online class with someone who taught public speaking, because it's my worst nightmare, public speaking. I mean, I'm just so amazed by people like you who do it so well. And but I thought if I know more about it, I'll be more confident. And that was brilliant. That was like a 45-minute session. Within the first 10 minutes, I knew she'd given me enough already that it would help me. And it was a few things like where you put your feet, how you stand, you know, how you move. And as soon as she said it to me, I thought, well, that's grounding. Like when you're doing a meditation, you ground yourself, you know, to the core. And you've got your power, you know, you've got your control back. So that was invaluable. But I'm a real believer in just say it out loud. So I get this thing and everybody tells me to stop telling everybody about it. But I get a really dry mouth and I get an Elvis lip. So my lip sticks to my teeth and I start doing this Elvis thing, which is not great, Fearne, when you're doing poetry.
No.
So the only way for me to get past that, if I can't get a quick drink of water, is to tell the audience.
Yes.
And then it's gone.
Say it. Own it.
Yeah. And it disappears.
Yes.
So whether it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm creating myself, but I did an event with Pam Ayres last summer at the Morecambe Poetry Festival, and somebody introduced me to her and said, have you any advice for Donna? And she said, well, don't tell anybody that you're nervous. That was the worst.
No, I want to tell the world. Pam, you don't understand.
And I said, oh no, Pam, that's the one thing I always do. And she went, don't do that.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Pam, but I'm with you because I had it with panic attacks. The best thing I could do if I could feel one coming on was to tell the person I was with, because the more it lived in my head in an isolated manner, the bigger it became, and I would be panicking like, oh my God, I bet they can tell. They know something's up. What if I faint was always my sort of worst case scenario if I was driving or on a stage. Yeah. And there was one time where I had to do some filming driving on the motorway, and I'm luckily fine on the motorway now and I've overcome it. But for 5 years, I couldn't drive on the motorway. Yeah. And I was filming a TV show where I had to drive on these big A roads and I could feel it coming on, and I just said, right, I'm just going to let you know, sometimes I have panic attack when I'm driving on a motorway, actually most of the time. So I just want to say that out loud so that you know. And because I'd said it, I felt so much more in control. Yeah. And it was on the edge, but I didn't go into full panic.
Yeah, it didn't get you.
Something about just saying it and owning it. And also I think with the work you're doing, you know, your poetry is connective. And I think just being honest and telling people, yeah, I'm this poet with a big following, but I'm still really shit scared. That makes you even more human and relatable, and people will connect to what your words mean even more, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And the whole point of writing the poems that I write and doing what I've done was to unmask, to get out of that place of perfectionism that I was living in, where you never admit that you're struggling and you always look like you have it all together. So there was no point in me trying to do that whilst I was trying to recite poetry that was saying the opposite to that. You know, I've only got one choice now that I've unraveled, as I call it, and that is to be exactly who I am. I can't do it any other way. I can't pick up the mask occasionally and put it back on for an hour. It would be nice, but it's gone now. So I have to just be really brave and own it and say, you know, I really love this. I want to be here. I want to do it. And in about 10 minutes, it's going to be fine.
Exactly. Because you do
now
it,
it's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, and that's fine. I love stories about people's trajectory when it's come a little bit later in life. I think we all know the stories of people that have had this vision from a very young age, and they've worked and worked and worked, and they've got to this point in their 20s or teens where it's all started to kick off. You seemingly had this big pivot in your 40s where I'm imagining it comes from mindset. It's not like you've got some sort of magic spell that you cast and all of a sudden you've got this huge following.
Or have
or have you? Maybe you can let us know, Donna. But it seems like something shifted in you in your 40s that catalysed all of this.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And if so, what was it?
I had had enough.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking every day, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep running this fast. I felt like the sort of lifestyle that we were living, my kids were a bit younger. They were at really good schools, but those schools went really fast and hard. Like, you have to do better, you have to do more, you have to do sports, you have to do this. Weekends are homework and weekends are more sports. And everybody was sort of moving at such a pace.
And stressed.
Yeah. And I just thought, I've got a feeling nobody likes this. And maybe if I stop and say, anybody else think that this is all just a bit of a joke and we can all just chill out and be a bit, flawed and have a laugh about it and be really happy, and we could maybe help one another, that if I did that, maybe people would go, me, me, me. And so, it was anonymous at first. I had a page. I sort of hid behind the name of the page, which was ladiespassit.on.com. And I thought we would kind of pass things on that helped one another. And it wasn't until sort of the first poem or two maybe went viral that I went, okay, this is me, this is my name, and this is my face. That's another really scary bit. What are you all going to say about my face? You're going to say horrible things. And I just had enough, and I just thought there's more than this. And I think we could have better conversations about everything, about depression. I realised I'd been depressed many times in my life, and I'd never admitted it. I'd always gone, I'm highly sensitive, I maybe get a bit down, I'm quite difficult. But no, I had been depressed. I struggled for a long time with eating disorders, and I got myself out of those eating disorders using affirmations and Reiki and going down the whole reprogramming your thoughts. So I lived on Louise Hay for decades.
Obsessed with Louise Hay. Her book, How to Heal Your Body, I have...
Healed my body.
I have it. I've got 2 copies of it.
Yeah.
One by my bed, one in my little office. I go to it constantly.
Yeah. I carried that everywhere with me, age 18. Who was doing that? And I did a Reiki course for my, I think it was my 17th birthday, because I was trying to eradicate myself off the face of the earth because I was such a perfectionist, had to have all the grades, had to have everything perfect, that, the minute I realised that you could control your eating and that would make you feel really powerful, and that was my downfall. Yeah. So Louise Hay helped me unpick all of that and find a much healthier, calmer way. And so somewhere within me that was all dying to come back out. It had kind of been squashed down again by life and being a new mum and, everything just coming at you. My husband and I ran a business, a children's play centre, which was 7 days a week. So there was never a day where it was shut except for Christmas Day and New Year's Day. And we thought, this will be fun. We can bring our kids to work, because I used to work in magazines and he was in TV. And we thought this will be a really chill, nice way of life. Why would you think that a ball pool would be chill?
No, they're the worst place ever, quite frankly.
Noise. I have noise. I have sensory issues. So the noise in itself was
too
fun.
much.
But I was definitely just looking for deeper conversations with people, and I thought, what, maybe I'll start it in a really dramatic way.
But why poetry as well? Because you could have expressed yourself in a plethora of ways, whether it was just expressive writing,
expressive dance,
or dance, or just creating a website where you're chatting to people. There's forums, but poetry is so specific. Why that? Is it something you'd always lent on personally just for fun?
I think there's always somebody in a friendship group that writes poems even for fun, like, can you, is that you?
I'm obsessed with poetry.
So there you go then. And I was that person.
Yeah.
So as a teenager, I wrote poems in my diary.
About the boys everyone fancied. Yeah, fun.
Heartache, the desperation of teenage angst and heartache. And then I became a songwriter. So I was a singer at the time, and I started to write songs. So the lyrics, the beauty of a few words, I listen to other people's music, and it's the lyrics for me. If they're with the right music and they're done in that way, magic is made.
It's the best.
But the lyrics are so important, and I've always been obsessed with the power of words in the right order, at the right time, just when you need it. If someone passes it to you or you hear it, it's healing. It's like affirmations, it's like all of that. They can do so much. So I didn't intend to do it. I didn't at any point go, I write poems now, that's what I do. I would write little paragraphs, and then I would write quotes, and then I would maybe just, write about my day, and then the poetry came. And so much so, it was so organic that I don't even know how it happened. It just unfurled. And then it just did this.
Well, this is all taking place during lockdown, that you started putting these poems out for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's lots I want to unpick within this story, but one of the scary things is, and I know, like you've just said, you were releasing them anonymously at first. It's one thing to write poetry. It's another to share it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever shared any of my poetry. It feels so
Fearne.
deeply personal.
We have to do
and
that
exposing
now.
that I don't know how I'd feel. And I had it with my paintings at first. I used to paint very privately. Mm-hmm. And now occasionally I'll put portraits that I've done online, and I'm less bothered about whether people think they're good, bad, or they don't get it, whatever. But it is, with anything creative, there is a scary threshold you have to cross to say, and here I am laying myself bare to the world with my poetry.
Yeah.
How did you get the courage to do that?
Like this. You've got to go through the cringe. There's no way around it.
No.
You have to cross the cringe. And whatever it is you're doing, if it's painting or poetry or writing, the first few times are going to feel absolutely hideously awful, like those dreams where you go out the house and you're naked and you can't get back in and you've not got a phone. But something inside you tells you that what's on the other side of the cringe is really worth crossing over to. So the only way to do it is to do it and go through that. And not compare, not over-edit, not look at your work and say, who's going to like it? Just put it out there and trust that the people who need that, and when it comes to art, it's needed. It's not just wanted, it's needed. They will find it. And I almost put the pressure on the work to take it off of me. So I tell my little poem, right, off you go, fly away, and find whoever you need. And then if it doesn't, it's not my fault. The poem didn't do it.
Gorgeous.
And then you've got to kind of let go of them. So once they leave you, they're no longer of you, they're from you, and they belong to other people now. And they will share them and do what they need to do with them, and they will become a part of their lives, and they do. Whatever it is that you're doing, the work becomes a part of other people's story.
Yeah, I mean, and my God, did people share them? I mean, when did you... Which poem went viral first, and how did that feel? Because that is, if you're, in Scotland, releasing these poems anonymously, not really thinking much of it, and then all of a sudden you're getting thousands of people following. I mean, you've got, 500,000 followers on Instagram or something now.
Yeah.
And some of your poems have just travelled so far and been shared with so many people. And like you say, are owned by those people. They have a different bespoke meaning to every reader. And they might be put in birthday cards, like all these little special ways that they've been shared with people.
So special.
But what did that feel like, the first one going viral, and thinking, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it's great.
It was crazy. And it's one of those things, I remember watching the numbers go, and the numbers were tick, 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 ticking. And most of it was on Facebook for me. So I was actually in Manchester when I first started in the lockdown. We moved after the first lockdown. And I just remember watching the numbers tick, 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 changing. Like they were never static. And I've actually got 1.5 million followers on Facebook now, which is completely insane. Instagram was a bit more difficult for me because I'm a bit older. I felt like it took me a wee while to, get into the cooler grids. But it felt like something I was watching rather than something I was part of. And still to this day, I feel like I am part of it. I don't see it as me, or, if people say, how do you feel? I always say, watching the words do their thing. Because I've long believed that we could use poetry every day. Not just for funerals, not just for weddings, or for really clever people who are really good at, dissecting complicated prose, but for every day, like Louise Hay.
Yeah.
And we could open it up randomly and get a little message that we need. And even if there's nothing going on in your day, there are a million things going on in your brain and your mind and your body and your soul. And you need comfort, you need direction, but most of all, you just need that feeling that somebody else felt like this too. one day, yesterday, today, maybe thousands of people are feeling like this. So I had long believed that poetry, or whatever you want to call it, had that power and could work really well on social media, because we're all moving so quickly through our feeds. These little chunks, you take one look at them, you know it's a poem because the way it's laid out. Your brain goes, I'm going to get a nice message here. So it cuts through like 10 layers of small talk and you're straight into deeper territory. So
soul talk.
Yeah, the poetry gets straight in and gets to topics that you would never be able to engineer your way around to in most conversations. So it has been like watching a giant poetry snowball, and lots of other poets have joined that snowball since then as well. And it's getting bigger. The figures are crazy. Poetry sold more last year than ever since time began.
Really?
Yeah. So, and the same the year before, and the same the year before.
Isn't it interesting? That must have some sort of direct correlation to the opposite, which is that very quickly imbibed TikTok algorithm of I'm watching something for 4 seconds and I'm bored and what's the next thing? And we want to counter it with something that you say you need to take more time to digest it, and it has to have, there's meaning behind it, and you need to sit with it. I think there's not ever a situation where just one thing exists. We have to have the counter. And maybe that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We're maybe understanding the need for it more than ever because we're so tired from being bombarded with all this quick information.
Yeah.
I mean, the book that I've got on my lap here, To the Women, you originally self-published this around this time when your poetry was really kicking off.
Yeah.
But you're republishing it now with added work in there, which is
70
really
new
exciting.
poems.
70 new
Which
ones.
is more than there was in the original book. It was a very small book. So it's more than half again. But I kept the original content, because even though I cringed, Fearne, when I read some of it.
Why?
Well, because it's an old version of you.
Yeah.
We all do it. We look back at photos, work that we did. Facebook statuses from 2 years ago are enough to make you go, who was that?
Quite.
But we must honour these past versions of ourselves, because they were who they were so that you could be who you are today. And you've really got to make peace with them and accept them and say, you know, I'm never going to agree with your outfit or your hairstyle, but look at you trying your best, bless, and, you know, we're here now.
And also us in 20 years might be cringing at us right now, so let's just be forgiving, I would say.
I'm sure. So I kept the original content exactly as it was, and then I thought I need to add the last 4 years, because I wrote that book to bring women together. And the minute it went out, more women came into my life than I could ever have even imagined possible. So therefore, there had to be a lot more stuff to be said. So it's like a bit of a full circle. This is my 10th book now, and it's also the first book.
Yeah.
So there's a real feeling of coming back to what happened and thanking everybody like you who shared for no reason other than you said, that's lovely, I'm going to share that.
Well, like many other people out there, I got gifted...
Sarah gave it to you.
My friend Sarah gave... I think she got me
Sarah.
3 of your books or something. Like there was a bundle of books, and our lovely dear friend Sarah Kaywood, who's just or Sarah Merry now, just an absolute legend. And
she is.
And I kept picking it up. It was in my little office at home, and I would read a poem, put it back, and it would just give me a little boost in the day. And
tiny little bits.
Tiny little boost, just so gorgeous. And this book is so special. I mean, I've pulled out a few poems that I not only love, but I'm interested to know more about. And one of them is Just Begin, which is a poem that talks about the difference between trusting the process and just waiting. Now, this is I think, very interesting. I mean, if you look at just the landscape of well-being, the word manifest is thrown about a lot. Yeah. We very recently recorded, I don't know when it will go out, before or after this episode, but we did a podcast on manifesting. Mm-hmm. And my often confusion with it, does it work? Is it a thing? Is it just for special people who can do it? You know, how does it work? And I think what you've done with this poem is sort of go beneath all the bullshit and go, right, what's trusting the process and what is just waiting hopelessly that something's going to happen without action. What has that relationship been like in your own life with knowing when to really push something or when to sit back and just trust life?
I mean, I'm obsessed with the science behind the way that we think and happiness and all of these things. So I read a lot of, evidence-based self-help books, I suppose, as they were, that talks about how your brain responds to what you're telling it every single day. If you are in the place of doing, you're in action. So it's all very well to sort of sit there and say, I really want this to happen. I hope this happens, and visualising and manifesting. But you've got to be actively doing something. Now, there are tiny, tiny steps, and I'm a huge believer in everything in tiny steps is the way to make change that lasts, or do things that, really work. So you could be doing the tiniest little thing towards what it is that you're hoping for. I mean, it could be anything. It could be, just putting a nice new pen next to a nice new book that you're going to write in later. You don't even write in it, but you put the pen there. No matter how overwhelmed you are, there's always something you can be doing towards what it is that you want to be receiving.
You've got to do something.
You've got to signal life, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, the motion of energy, that I'm ready, let's go.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to stand up and say, I'm ready, let's go, I'm doing something.
Yeah. So it's actually a lovely little combination of the doing bit, but you've got to trust as well.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're doing, but you're going, this probably won't work, this is going to go to shit, then that's not helpful either.
Yeah.
And I guess also if you know that you're not happy, this also applies that you have to do something differently. You've got to apply change to a situation if you want to feel differently. And I think we've all been stuck in a rut at points in our life where we've thought, but why am I still in this situation, or why do I still feel like this? But we're not actively doing anything differently, but we're expecting change to sort of turn up for us.
And we get trapped in that. We often get so trapped in that. And the problem about being trapped in things is you can't see it because you're inside it. And if you're in the habit of coming out of what it is that you feel you're inside, of coming out of your own life, your own thoughts, and standing outside of it and looking back in, it's a really clever thing to do. Perspective. You don't see when you're in. You have to get outside of it to look back in to see. That's why when you go on a big walk, literally up a hill or, away, or when you go on holiday, you sometimes get a better look at your life and your problems because you're out of it, you're far away, you're out of your routine. And your routine can be a cage sometimes, as well as comforting, comfort zones, for example. You build your comfort zones when you're in a really bad place, and they're important, you need them. But you've got to get out it. But you can come back to it. People who say life exists outside your comfort zones, I agree with that to an extent. But you need somewhere to come back to regenerate when you've done the big thing, and you built that. You did that. Look how cozy it is. Get back in it, but always come back out and have a look around and check that you're not imprisoning yourself in there, that you're free.
I've definitely had years where I've felt really not great. And my routine has been regimented to the nth degree. Like everything, I have to go to bed at a certain time, and I have to do this before I go to bed, and then I have to wake up at a certain time. Because you feel so out of control, you're trying to create some sort of safety, like a route, a map to sort of just get through the day. Yeah. And actually the times when I can see that I felt, it's not even about happiness maybe, it's about feeling engaged with life and very aware of the life going on around me and that I'm in it, that kind of goes out the window a bit in the best possible way. Yeah. And I'm not so obsessive about timings and how everything's got to be so that I can feel okay, because it doesn't work like that anyway.
No. There is a flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are or what you believe in, there is a flow that you have to let go to a little.
Yeah.
And these regimented routines that we give ourselves, they're not allowing us to do enough living in between all of the doing, and it's I'm somebody who doesn't aim for happiness. I'm looking for peace because I live in a very chaotic mind. I always have. So all of my poetry is seeking calm, peace, a better understanding of why feelings come, and believing that they're going to go again, knowing that you don't have to hold on to them or believe that this is me now. I'm a very sad person. I'm never going to feel light again. It all comes and it all goes, and it can do that 100 times a day. Yeah. So happiness for me is like sadness. It comes in, it comes out. You've got to honour it when it's there and go for it. You know these little moments where you think, why am I feeling happy? It's Monday.
Yeah, lean
at
in.
9.
Lean into that.
Jump in, get it done.
And I guess poetry actively helps you remember that everything comes and goes, because when you're writing something down, it doesn't have to be poetry. It could be just you writing a bit of a diary entry or just you're really fucking angry about something. You need to write it down. The notion of getting it on a page, it does get it out of you to a degree. Maybe not entirely that you're rid of all the feelings, but it doesn't exclusively live within you. There is some sort of purging with writing, I think.
Yeah, completely. And I would urge anybody who has an overthinking brain or feels, slightly chaotic sometimes.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. We are twin flames in many ways. To write. Yeah. And I told you before we came in, I gave you the journal. So this journal that I made last year, this was the purpose of it. So there's a question every day from me. And the idea behind the question is so that you don't even have to think, what am I writing today? Somebody else is asking you it. And what it does is it kickstarts your thoughts, looking at them a bit more selectively. Am I being really negative here? Am I wallowing in this thing that I could be letting go of now? Or am I stopping myself before I even begin? So journaling, and even that word itself can put fear into some people because we've no time. But you have got time. You feel like you're stealing time from yourself when you take 10 minutes to journal, but you're actually giving yourself about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because you're saving yourself so much running around in chaos later by just letting your thoughts formulate into a better order, letting the important stuff come to the front and all the rubbish go to the back, maybe even, out the back door. That's what writing does. It literally gets it out and puts it down, like pulling a messy thread out of a brain full of threads.
Oh, that's just reminded me of Set It Down,
Set
another
It Down,
poem that I've jotted down that I love, because that very much is about setting down heavy feelings. And I love that idea, because sometimes we assume we have to carry around this heavy load of shit, whether it's something that happened to us or it's a regret or they're just some big old heavy feelings that we've got. And we don't give ourselves permission to go, I'm just going to pop that down. It could be for an hour or it could be forever. Yeah. But we don't give ourselves permission to do that. I wonder what you think the difference is between setting down heavy feelings and ignoring them completely unhealthily.
Well, in order to know what you're setting down, you have to have processed it.
Yeah.
So, I would never tell people to whack a smile on your face and just be happy. That's not positivity. To me, positivity is having a look at all the crap first, sifting through it for what's real, what is going to stay with you, like grief or, things that you actually will carry with you, but in a more healthy manner, and what is just a load of rubbish that you do not need. So if you're at the point of setting it down, you've had a look at what it is that you're putting down. But I started this practice a couple of years ago where at the end of every month, I asked the month before to keep something for me that I didn't want to take forward. So I would say, right, June, whatever it may be, maybe I was having a body confidence issue, let's just say, rose up again, from the teenage years, which happens. Nothing is linear, everything loops. You go back and you go back and you go back. So I would say, June, will you just keep this for me? I'm not going into July with it. It's a load of rubbish. It's holding me back. And saying it out loud or writing it down is such a powerful thing. You feel very silly, but it's almost like you're pinning it to the fabric of the universe and making it so. If I say this, I'm setting you down now and I'm walking away. I'm leaving you. I'm not coming back. No, I don't hear you. And off I go. You have a laugh about it, but it's a really powerful thing to do. And to see things visually like that makes a difference for me. It works for my brain. That gives me a feeling of, yeah, of course I can do this. I can go into tomorrow, next week, whatever it is, and I don't have to take that with me.
No, we don't. We've got much more choice than we believe. I think sometimes, especially when it comes to self-esteem and negative beliefs we have about ourselves, we're so used to that voice. It is so inherently there.
Yeah.
And it's made itself a little room and it's made itself all cozy in there, and you're just used to hearing that.
Having
you're a piece of shit.
Time. Yeah.
You look like shit. Whatever your story on repeat is.
Yeah.
And we forget we've got a choice to say, I'm not going to listen to that anymore, actually.
Yeah.
You can stay in January, thanks. I'm
Yeah.
off to February. Bye.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Absolutely.
Grace to Slow is another one that I'd love to talk to you about. A poem where you talk about, well, many things, but one of them is just pace. And we live, as we all know, in the craziest of times where things are just phenomenally fast.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, you know, you had a job where you felt you were caught in the rat race and it was all about chasing that and what's next and how do we keep this going, and you chose to step away from that. But it's really hard, even if it's not in terms of your lifestyle, for our brains to get used to slowing down and stopping and taking heed of what's just happened, having a little moment and a pause. None of us used to it. And also we're actively encouraged to not do that. It's like, well, what are you going to do next? And what are you achieving next? And what are you doing at the weekend? And what's going on in your evening? We're so rarely in the moment. Do you think you've got better with that, maybe even through writing poetry?
Yeah, completely. I've changed so much in the last 4 years because I've been writing this every day. And when I started writing it, I wasn't doing it. And to this day, I'll still say to people, I am not a perfect person floating about in serenity all the time. I write all of this poetry because that's what I'm actively asking for. So in order to get it, I have to work at it and I have to put it out there and I have to dream it and be it and, you know, and do it. So I'm constantly trying to be more peaceful and more present and less, you know, less bothered by what everybody else is doing and who's chasing what. You know, careful what race you've got yourself in, because what is the prize? To be more stressed than the person behind you, because that's really what's happening. And it's made a huge difference in my life. And again, with the journaling group, we're sort of 3 weeks into January, and watching everybody, because they've had this question every day and they've started questioning their pace, their inner critics, you know, all of these things, and being forced to sort of write good things about themselves and watch what happens to the reaction. It's fascinating. Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating. And take away a few daily details, and women especially, we're all the same. You know, you can take some layers away of what we do and where we live and, you know, all of those things. But really, we're all fundamentally the same. And we all feel that pressure. You know, these badges of merit or busyness and stress. Oh, my God, how does she do it? Well, she doesn't do it. She probably comes home and, you know, has a scream every night like me.
Goes in the garden and goes, ah!
And we're all doing it. And if we all just owned up to it, everybody would go, oh,
yeah,
I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, because actually, this isn't a poem I'm quoting here. It's a line. It's from a poem, but it's a line that you've pulled out in the book, which says, "When you embrace your flaws, someone watching finds their way," which is so brilliant, because I've certainly had that, where I've seen somebody openly admit to something that they are unhappy with in themselves, or a moment that they feel they fucked up, or whatever it might be. And not only does it give us all permission to go, okay, I can find a bit of peace with the fact that I'm completely flawed. We all are. We've all got things that we know we would like to either change, or that we know we've got a little weak spot over here or whatever. And we don't need fixing. We don't need to create this perfect version of ourselves. Yeah. It's becoming much more comfortable with those flaws, or things in the past that have happened to you that you feel deeply uncomfortable about. It's finding peace rather than, I need to eradicate that to become a pure person who never says anything bad or ever has a bad thought, which is bollocks. And I think by people having openness and talking about that, other people can find not only a bit of mental peace, but also, I think, actively make decisions that suit them better, because they're less worried about what everyone else thinks, quite frankly. It's powerful.
It's so powerful. The love lives in the sharing of the ugly truths, because you can show everybody into your lovely home, or here's my new dress and my lovely holiday, and that's great. We all enjoy that and we share that and it's fun. But if you let somebody in to your ugly, your moment where you just weren't a great version of yourself, or, you know, underneath the beautiful exterior and into something that is vulnerable, you've given them a gift. You've literally given them a gift. It's one of the nicest things that one human being can do for another. And you did it for a room full of us a couple of weeks ago at the breakfast event that we were at, when you said, the question was, how do you find balance? And you went, well, I don't.
No.
I chase it every day. I
There
never
is
get
none.
it. It's like the Roadrunner. We're all chasing balance.
Of course.
We'll probably never catch it. But every day we try. And we're all trying to be better people, kinder people, nicer to ourselves, better parents, do a bit of good work, make a bit of difference in the world. And, we're all trying so hard to be good people. And if you stop and look at it, the fact that we're all trying to be good is such a wonderful thing, when there are people out there who just actively do terrible things. Most people are constantly trying to be better. And that's a beautiful thing. And being honest with the bits of you that aren't better, that you might not even keep trying to make better because you've just gone, actually, this is me.
Yeah.
I'm neurodiverse, so my son was diagnosed at the start of lockdown, along with lockdown, and, our world turned upside down. We had no clue what was coming. It was like somebody threw a hand grenade into our lounge and then ran away. And we were like, what now? And I sort of deep dived on his behalf to find out more about what autism means, what ADHD means. He's both. And in doing that, I uncovered myself. And with each page that I turned, I was like, oh. So, of course, I went and got my diagnosis. And the sort of realization that you're not faulty. You perceive the world differently. And actually, this world is crazy. You're not meant to be able to handle all the noise, all the sounds, all the lights, all the change. We were never meant to live like this, Fearne. We were meant to be in tiny little villages, hearing the bad news from the neighbouring village, not the entire world. You need to, like you say, you need to counter that with enough good news, with enough good thoughts, or thoughts that can at least help you change your worst thoughts. I can't even remember how I started on this and what the question was.
Doesn't even matter.
I'm completely
because
lost.
What you're saying is great.
Yeah, but yes, you gave us all permission to do that day by saying, I don't have balance.
I mean, I honestly don't have a clue.
We all went,
no, I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
Fearne doesn't have balance.
Well, no, I think I feel deeply uncomfortable a lot of the time with, I love doing talks. I love doing panel talks. I do a hell of a lot of them. But I would never want to be framed as this person who does wellness, and I'm doing it really well, and my life's really perfect. It's like, people assume that I'm sort of like constantly meditating, whatever. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm rushing around trying to find kids' school uniform that I've put in the washing machine and have forgot to dry on the morning they need it. And my kids are on screens, and I'm going out of my mind, and I've got 50 emails in my inbox. At the end of the day, I'm also trying to run a business as well as being a mum. So no, I'm not meditating every day. Yeah. I know all of this stuff works, and I like dipping in and out of certain things that work for me. But realistically, in this world we live in, I am floundering around working out how to get to the end of the day so I can crawl into bed. Like, I don't want to ever be seen as anything other than a deeply flawed human.
Same.
Like, there is no other version of me.
There's such joy in that.
Yeah.
Isn't there such joy and relief? Oh my goodness, everybody chill out. We're all as bad as each other.
We're all,
and if anybody says that they're not, they're lying to themselves.
Of course.
And they're going to have to look at that at some point.
Yep.
Because nobody's doing it. It's not possible. Nobody can do it all, have it all, and enjoy it all and never worry. No. That's just not a thing.
It's absolute bollocks.
So, yeah, I set out from the very beginning to go, I am deeply flawed. How lucky am I to be able to be flawed and be here and see that and want to try and be a wee bit better, because it's not as though you're trying to be better so people will perceive you better. You're trying to be better for yourself, for your life, for your kids, for the people who love you, so that, their experience of you is a bit better. And some days I really achieve that, and other days, like last week, I had to run up to my bedroom and roar like a banshee and beat my pillows because I was so frustrated by something small. And I just finished and kind of just flicked my hair and went,
Yes.
back to being...
Yeah, you've got to get it out of
calm.
you physically, though. Get a pillow, beat the shit out of it.
And a roar, like a banshee.
roar.
I really recommend it.
I would love you to read a poem for us out of your book to the women. I don't know which one you'd feel is right for today.
I am going to... Now, I had a thought on the way in, so bear with. I hope there's editing. And oh yeah, Hold Tight is called.
Okay.
I never know if my memory's going to let me down and leave me cold. It's called Hold Tight, so now I just need to find it. This is when I regret putting too many...
You've written too many poems there, Donna, haven't you?
Too many poems in one book. Let's just see. I know, well, when I was in the audio booth earlier recording them all, I thought,
really
why have I done
it?
so many?
Why didn't I just do
I didn't
5
need to
and
do
call
this
it
many.
quits?
It would have been fine if there was only 100. Here we go. I found it.
Right.
Hurrah.
Donna, over to you.
This is called Hold Tight. I'm not going to read directly to your face because I know that can be quite uncomfortable.
Creepy.
Yeah,
Sure.
a bit creepy. Okay, hold tight. In those moments when darkness is unbroken by light, hold tight to your core, to the belief that there is more, that light will return, and soon it will crack through the curtains and fill this very room. Stay afloat by holding yourself like a safety rope until someone else can hold you too. The safest place in this world must be you. Hear the truth, not the voices who tell you you're useless and used. You're just bruised, and bruises heal. Hunker down and feel. This is simply passing through, in the way all feelings do. Hold tight to you.
That is so gorgeous.
Do you like it?
And I think all of us need to not only hear that, but really know it and believe it, because we so often ditch ourselves, abandon ourselves, rely too heavily on exterior things to make us feel better and good. And actually, at the end of the day, we've just got ourselves, and we've got to love ourselves and have compassion and hold ourselves tightly.
At least just be nice to yourself.
Nice to yourself.
You know things can go wrong and you can get things really wrong, but if you've got your own back, if you're not ready to pounce and go, I knew it, I knew you would do this, you can just be like, oh, sorry, but like you would for a friend.
Yeah.
You know, it's that simple. You don't have to love yourself. That can be a mountain for a lot of people, but you do have to like yourself, or at least be nice.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Exactly. Oh, it's beautiful. I love that poem.
Thank you.
I'd love to end the chat by knowing where your happy place is. It doesn't have to be a tangible space, but what is your happy place?
Oh, it's my bedroom. I'm really rock and roll and, interesting human. I just love that feeling when the day's done, all things are done. You've got everything off your little list that you needed to do, and all you have to do now is chill out in your lovely space I've got a new kitten, so, I've got 2 cats now and 2 dogs and 2 kids who sometimes come for a cuddle, but not quite. They're 12 and 16 now, so occasionally I get a cuddle. So it's that feeling of, it's just me now and just the people that I love, and just, the safety of the space that you've got is important. So that's my happy place. And I also love the Happy Place Festival. Yeah. That's genuinely a happy place.
It is. It really
recharges you. Like
well,
you're
it
plugged
only
in.
is because of all the people there. Otherwise, it's just a field.
Yeah, you just put out a call for all the
great
wonderful people in the
Good
whole of
eggs
the country
only
to come together. And it's like, boom, this energy.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
It's gorgeous. Well, you're invited every bloody year.
Yay.
Donna, what a joy to have you on Happy Place. Thank you for reading some of your beautiful poetry.
Thank you.
And good luck with more people discovering your beautiful work.
And thank you for shining your lovely light on me today. I'm really grateful.